a huge day in New Delhi between the 27 country bloc and India. However, who gains more from this deal in the near term? European exporters or Indian consumers? And who bears the biggest adjustment costs inside India?
I think Indian consumers are going to be significantly affected by the tremendous cheapening of European goods, especially in food and beverage. The EU is India's biggest trade partner. India is only one of major trade partners for the EU, so I think India will have the biggest impact. And I realize there are some concerns on the part of domestic Indian industry about facing greater competition from abroad and from Europe. But of course, for the consumer, it's very good news. It reminds us that tariffs are always paid by the consumer and not by the country whose goods are being tariffed, something that Trump consistently misleads the Americans about. I think if you zoom out a little bit and look at this rather astonishing deal that concludes 20 years of talks and basically creates a 2 billion person market that currently has trade of around in goods and services of almost 200 billion. It's clearly not just an economic move, but a political one. And if coupled with Canada's moves to reach partial tariff deals with China, and if you consider that quite unusually, this move by the EU is accompanied by a security and defense partnership, it's very difficult not to see all this as, in some, as a reaction to the position of the U.S. that views alliances, including trade alliances, with indifference, weaponizes tariffs, deploys tariffs in a way that I do believe is illegal under American law, and the Supreme Court has yet to decide on this. And on the whims of a president or in reaction to geopolitical issues as pressure. Remember that Trump proposed 100% tariffs on Canada because of the suggestion that they're going to do a broader deal with China. Well, that would be devastating to the U.S. housing industry because they depend on Canadian lumber. Basically, all of this is a global readjustment to essentially circumvent the U.S. at a time when the U.S. appears to be doing everything in its power to remove itself from global supply chains and from the global economy.
And Dan, of course, the world's two biggest economies, huge trading partners for both the EU and India. How will Beijing and Washington be looking at this deal?
Well, I mean, if Washington is intelligent, it will be looking at it with great concern. But I can no longer predict what Trump will do or what he will say, and oftentimes what they say does not really reflect what the people running the economy behind the scenes in America think. I'm sure they're scandalized, and generally the American establishment is scandalized by the way Trump is deploying tariffs. And a major issue coming up that is weirdly underreported is a Supreme Court decision on whether the tariffs are illegal. Just to bring viewers up to date, tariffs are the gift of Congress. Congress imposes tariffs. There was a 1960s a loophole that enabled the president to impose tariffs in cases of a specific pinpoint economic emergency. So Trump has declared all of world trade an economic emergency, and the Supreme Court, which to a degree has been bought and paid for by the Republican Party, will need to decide the degree to which they're willing to justify anything done by the U.S. administration. And I have my suspicion that they're going to draw the line because the damage being done to Americans, American consumers, American importers, America's position in the world is so stupendous. And the implication based on what Trump says is that he doesn't understand how tariffs work. And we see now this huge coming together of the EU and of India, which will make Americans face higher prices and fewer choices and less trade. I have to think that the Supreme Court is going to take a stand, but we shall see. As for China, sure. I mean, China logically is also challenged by this, but China is so benefiting by the U.S. position on tariffs and on hostility to their own geopolitical and trading partners, that the past year has been a net gain for China. Um, China has seen a rise in trade, not just with the EU, but also with the UK, which, of course, and wisely, is no longer in the EU. China is busily building all kinds of structures, bilaterally and also regionally, to promote and increase trade. And of course, China is eating the Americans' lunch when it comes to electric vehicles and also, I fear, increasingly AI.